Fired FBI Director James Comey is set to testify on Capitol Hill tomorrow about his interactions with the president. But Comey delivered a preview of his remarks this afternoon. He released his opening statement to news organizations. Fox Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge has given the statement a thorough look, and she joins us now. Hey, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Tucker. The fired FBI director will start tomorrow's hearing by reading these 7 pages into the congressional record. James Comey says he had 9 private conversations with President Trump, and he documented each one, sometimes writing up his notes in the FBI vehicle outside Trump Tower. In January, Comey volunteered the incoming president was not under investigation. And later that same month, at a private dinner, now President Trump asked the FBI director if he wanted to stay on. Quote, the president said, "I need loyalty. I expect loyalty. I didn't move, speak, or change my facial expression in any way during the awkward silence that followed," Comey writes. "We simply looked at each other in silence." Later in the conversation, the president returned to the subject. "I need loyalty." I replied, "You will always get honesty from me." He paused and then said, "That's what I want. Honest loyalty." I paused and then said, "You will get that from me." A day after the National Security Advisor Mike Flynn resigned in February, Comey said the president asked him to let go of Flynn's investigation, not the broader Russia case. Comey said it was very concerning, but no further action was taken. And tonight, the president's personal attorney says he feels totally vindicated. Tucker?
Catherine Herridge, thanks a lot for that.
You're welcome.
Well, Jim Comey isn't coming to Capitol Hill until tomorrow, as we said, but there was plenty of drama at the Senate Intelligence Committee today nonetheless. Here's a selection of what happened.
And there are reports out in the press that the president separately appealed to you, Admiral Rogers, and to you, Director Coates, to downplay the Russia investigation.
I have never been pressured. I have never felt pressure to intervene or interfere in any way and shaping intelligence in a political way.
Today, I am not going to talk about theoreticals. I am not going to discuss the specifics of any interaction or conversations I may or may not. If I could finish, sir, please. That I may or may not have had with the President of the United States.
Is there an invocation by the President of the United States of executive privilege? Is there or not?
Not that I'm aware of.
Then why are you not answering our
questions? Because I feel
questions?
it is inappropriate, Senator.
What you feel isn't relevant, Admiral.
Meanwhile, outside the committee room, Comey's written remarks have driven the usual hotheads all the way to the edge and sometimes past it. Congressman Al Green of Texas went on the House floor and declared that he's going to start drawing up articles of impeachment this minute before the former FBI director even testifies.
He made it very clear that he was going to fire Mr. Comey regardless as to what anyone else called to his attention. If no one else does, I will file articles of impeachment to impeach President Donald J. Trump for obstruction of justice.
Well, meanwhile, the ratings bonanza on the left-wing cable channels continues as anchors and analysts compete to out-hyperventilate each other. This scandal is big, they're telling us, bigger even than, you guessed it, Watergate.
Donald Trump is not nearly as effective at presiding over a cover-up as Richard Nixon was.
Watergate pales, really, in my view, as compared to what we're confronting now.
Tonight, we have arrived at Watergate. This is Watergate.
Well, you probably knew this already, but the TV business tends to draw hysterics, attention seekers, and hyperbole merchants. We work here, so we can tell you that for certain. But at overheated moments like this, it is worth taking a few steps back and considering what's really going on. Let's start with Watergate. Is this Watergate? At the heart of that scandal, there was an actual crime. Burglars broke into an actual building that held the Democratic Party's headquarters. President Nixon likely knew about that. He attempted to sabotage the federal investigation into it, and he lied during the cover-up. When those lies were exposed, he had no choice but to resign. What's the alleged crime here? Well, the alleged crime is that President Trump secretly collaborated with the government of Vladimir Putin in order to substitute Russian priorities for American priorities. In other words, that he acted as a foreign agent against this country's interests. Now, if that's true, it's a betrayal of America. It's a moral crime, and the president deserves whatever punishment he gets. If it's not true, then this is the grandest and most grotesque farce in American history. It's a witch hunt that's hurting people and paralyzing our government. There's no middle ground here. It's one or the other. Now, at this stage, there is precisely no evidence that a crime has taken place, none at all. So put yourself in the position of the accused for just a minute. Imagine you're not a Russian agent, but every day virtually the entire media and virtually everyone in power suggests that you are. How would you feel about that? What would you do about that? Let's say your FBI director had informed you and members of Congress that you were not personally under investigation. Well, you'd probably want him to tell the country the same thing, since after all, it's true and it's exculpatory and it might lower the temperature a little bit. Now, that could be an uncomfortable conversation with your FBI director, but you'd seen the same FBI director publicly characterize the state of other investigations. So you know there's precedent for that. So you ask him. Now your political enemies are using that request as evidence that you're guilty of the crime you wanted the FBI director to admit you're not being investigated for. Imagine if that happened to you. You might go a little bit crazy. And come to think of it, maybe that was the whole point of this exercise. Congressman Eric Swalwell is a Democrat from California. He's been pushing this Russia story from the very start, and he joins us now. Congressman, thanks for coming on.
Good evening, Tucker, from your studio in Washington.
So I'm glad to see you there. Yeah. We're supposed to be shocked by this Comey statement that the president asked him on a couple of occasions to tell the public what he'd already told the president himself and members of Congress, that the president was not the subject of an FBI investigation person. In other words, he pushed Director Comey to tell the truth. Why is that a scandal exactly?
That's not the scandal here. What is troubling and what hopefully will be probed further when Director Comey testifies tomorrow is why did he demand loyalty from somebody who he was going to presumably keep on as FBI director and tie that to his job? Why did he ask that the investigation of his friend Michael Flynn go away? And why was he so obsessive about the Russia investigation that he wanted the cloud cleared? Now, this is America. Director Comey will have to answer those questions tomorrow.
Let's take your questions one at a time. Hold on, if we could. So to answer the first question, I don't know the answer why you would say something like that. And we're going to talk to Corey Lewandowski for a minute, who's close to the president. I'm going to ask him that. I think it's weird. As to why he was obsessed by the Russian investigation, maybe because people like you were alleging that he committed treason against the United States, and he thinks he didn't, and there's no evidence that he did. Yeah. So maybe that bothers him. Does that make sense?
And I've never alleged that. What I have stated and what the FBI has stated is that there is an investigation into people on his team as to whether they had personal, financial, or political relationships with Russia as Russia was attacking our democracy. We haven't concluded that yet, and we just want the president to get out of the way of the honest investigations that have to take place at the FBI and on the House Intelligence Committee.
That's not what you want. You want to paralyze the president and the government by insinuating that he's a Russian agent, as you know. But let's get to the legal question.
Tucker, the truth is, what I want is us to be able to do our work, and he has paralyzed this town from doing that, from the chaos he's caused.
You don't want anyone to do any work until Trump leaves. And let's just stop being disingenuous. But let's get to the legal question, which is, what's the underlying crime? If this is Watergate, what's the crime?
I didn't call it Watergate.
Okay, well, your colleagues are calling it Watergate en masse. Many of them, not just like the random ones, not just Maxine Waters, but lots of them are comparing it to Watergate. And you're suggesting the implication behind all of this is there's a crime. What's the crime?
I haven't suggested that at all, Tucker. I think you should have those colleagues on. What I am suggesting is our country was attacked. We should hold our democracy sacred, and we should understand whether any U.S. persons were involved in that attack. On the House Intelligence Committee, what I hope we can do is to make reforms so this never happens again.
The suggestion is that Trump somehow was connected to this so-called attack on the United States or its democracy. I mean, democracy is an abstract. You can attack democracy. It's not a thing, but whatever. But you're implying that Trump was involved in Russian efforts to influence the outcome. That's what you're saying?
No. What the FBI director told Congress on March 20 was that the Trump campaign was being investigated as to whether they were working with Russia as Russia was interfering in our election. And we should be able to proceed without the president disrupting, as he has, onto that investigation.
So the very essence of this, the essence of your claim is that Russia hacked our election, democracy, country, traditions, whatever, but that they hacked a DNC computer, a network. Now, that network was never investigated by the FBI because the Clinton campaign wouldn't allow it. And so they hired their own group of investigators to take a look at it. Why is that sufficient to base an entire investigation/scandal on? How do we know? Why didn't the FBI ever look at that computer system? I don't understand.
Yeah, Tucker, it was actually a multifaceted attack. It included social media trolls, the use of fake news and disseminating it through Russia Today.
No, hold on, come on. That's ridiculous. Don't insult our viewers. Look, don't
insult our intelligence agencies who have said that that's what happened.
There's no evidence that the trolls moved a single vote. Nobody read that crap. There was a big study on who read that. Nobody did. But emails were taken from the DNC servers. And that's really the crime here, to the extent there is one. Why did the FBI never actually investigate those servers itself? I don't understand.
Yeah. Again, Tucker, you'll have to invite the FBI here. Again, on the House Intelligence Committee, we're not conducting a criminal probe. We want to tell the American people how we can be more aware next election. We want to make reforms in our election system so that they are not penetrated by Russia or other countries who have similar capabilities. We'll let the FBI do
reforms. What reforms are you talking about? So you're saying that people read things on the internet you didn't want them to read. Would you make it illegal to read things on the internet you don't approve of? Like, what would be the reform exactly that would stop the bots you're talking about or the fake news you're talking about? What reforms are you suggesting?
Well, it would be so the American people understand that social media trolls are out there, that Russia Today is not an honest broadcasting company. It's actually a tool of Russia's intelligence services. That
would you ban emails, it? You're going to ban cable nets? You don't agree with that?
It's a free country. People should just be more aware so that when they go to the ballot box, it's still a free and fair election.
So, but I'm missing it. You said we need reforms to change the way people approach their news. You're a member of Congress. How would you ban Russia Today? Would you put a warning label on it? I mean, what exactly specifically are you talking about, since you're a lawmaker?
Reforms and awareness. And the reforms, I think, would be to improve the structural integrity of the ballot box. So making sure that counties and states have access to federal resources so they can defend against any attacks. Because, Tucker, you're right. There's no evidence that votes were changed. That would be a very dire situation if that could occur. But we want to make sure that...
a big deal.
Yeah. But we know that Russia did go into voting systems, and we don't want them to go any farther in the next election or any other country.
Well, that's entirely legitimate. Of course. I mean, everyone wants to see the integrity of the system preserved and want to make sure that only voters who are allowed to vote. That's why people would push ID laws, and you fight against them for reasons that aren't clear. But really quickly, is there anything you would do to stop the proliferation of this terrifying fake news you guys are always talking about? What would you do about that?
We just want America to be more aware so that Russia or other countries aren't able to pull this off again. This is a mess, Tucker, and it has prevented us from doing the work for the American people that we really should be here doing.
But they didn't pull off anything. And by the way, when you can figure out what exactly they pulled off and be super specific about it, please come back anytime. I'll be quiet as you
coming back, Tucker.
Thank you, Congressman. And congratulations on your new baby, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Well, for more reaction to Comey's statement, we are joined by former Donald Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski. Corey, thanks a lot for coming on tonight. So you just heard Congressman Swalwell bring up almost first thing this statement from the former FBI director that says President Trump asked for his, quote, loyalty. Now, assuming that's true, why would the president ask for loyalty from an FBI director? What does that mean?
Look, what the president asked for was loyalty to the country and loyalty to make sure that the American people have the justice system that they want. That's not unheard of. That's not uncalled for. And what the president asked for as a president-elect was to develop a rapport with the incoming FBI director. If you read the statement that the FBI director made, what he said was in his entire tenure, he had 2 conversations with Barack Obama when he was the president of the United States. One was to simply say goodbye. And in the time that President Trump has taken office, from the time he was the president-elect till the time Jim Comey was fired for not performing his job well, he had 9 separate conversations with the president in multiple meetings. The difference is this president is hands-on, wants to make sure that we have the best Justice Department available, and he made the decision as the commander-in-chief to relieve a person from duty who is no longer capable of running the FBI.
Well, that's for sure, and you'll get no disagreement from me, or, by the way, privately from a lot of Democrats. They thought that Comey was out of control because he was. Why, though, would the president have asked the Attorney General to leave the room before he spoke to the FBI director?
Look, it's very possible the president wanted to have private conversations, and the president has that prerogative and is entitled to have those conversations. But what's important, Tucker, as you know, is when Director Comey appeared in Trump Tower in January, prior to the president even being inaugurated, he informed the president that he was not under investigation in any way, shape, or form. And it's important I read this. He said, "I should be prepared to assure President-elect Trump that we were not investigating him personally. That was true. We did not have an open counterintelligence case on him." It's very clear the president elect, and now President Trump has never been under FBI investigation, and the president cited that on 3 separate occasions when he dismissed Jim Comey for his lack of ability to continue to lead the FBI, that on 3 occasions, Director Comey informed the president he was never under investigation.
Right. No, I think that's definitely one of the headlines here. Another headline today is that apparently the Attorney General of the United States does not have the support of the president. The White House press secretary was asked today to affirm the president's support for Jeff Sessions, and he wouldn't. Why is that?
Look, I think what we know about this president and what we know about Sean Spicer is it's very clear that the president speaks for the president. And this is a president who has been exceptionally accessible to the media, whether it's through print media or broadcast media or through his Twitter accounts. And the president will speak for himself when he believes it necessary to do so. And I think it's fair that the president will have the ability to answer if he continues to have the faith of Jeff Sessions or not.
Right. Do you think the president understands that Sessions isn't just another guy who works for him, but maybe the one guy who really understands why he got elected, and that he was key to the president's election, and that if he fires Jeff Sessions, a lot of his supporters will say, you know what, I'm out? I mean, does he see Sessions that way?
Look, Jeff was one of the, as you know, the very first U.S. senators to endorse President Trump. Right. He was with us in Mobile, Alabama in August of 2015. Senator Sessions then, and now Attorney General Sessions, has been a steadfast supporter of this president and the agenda which he wants to move forward, which is immigration reform and tax cuts and repealing and replacing Obamacare. And what we know is that Jeff Sessions is an individual who has the utmost integrity and is going to do what is right. But as you know, every individual who is confirmed by the U.S. Senate serves at the will of the president. If the president decides to make a decision to change that, that's his prerogative.
That would be a grave mistake, and I hope that doesn't happen. That's my view. Anyway, Corey, thanks a lot for joining us tonight.
Thank you.